morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and welcome to Tuesday, as it is absolute, there's no other way to say it, chaos all over the marketplace. Things are breaking down everywhere. We got so many things to talk about. 800-951-0592. Get ready. This is it. You're getting handed a gift. We've had a great pullback in the marketplace. Take advantage of it. We're going to help you do that today. We got a great special coming up for you. AllAmericanGold.com is the website. I'm joined, like I always am, with my partner, Jason, up there in Colorado. And Jason, it just seems like everything changes minute by minute, second by second. Today we got a bunch of economic data out, none of it good. We got PPI out today. That is what the producers are telling us. Hey, by the way, this is how much more things are costing us, and they are in the double digits. So we're talking about double-digit inflation. It's here on the producer side. We had bad numbers out of the New York Fed. Their manufacturing activity went to negative. We have bond yields. We haven't really talked about this. We have so much to talk about. Bond yields getting closer and closer to inverting, which simply means the lower dated maturities, right? The 30-day, the 60-day, the 90-day, the 2-year. And for a lot of bond guys, they watch the 2-year note and the 10-year note. If the 2-year note is yielding more than the 10-year note, they call that an inversion, which is a fancy way of saying, hey, the bond market thinks a recession's coming. And Jason, we're getting really close to that.
That's right, Joe. That's right. There's going to be some information today, and then some more information tomorrow. And then, Russia is defaulting possibly. And I heard some news that Russia is now starting to seize assets of foreign owners. Like, let's just say you own a house in Russia. Well, if you're an American that owns a house in Russia, Russia just might take it, Joe. So it's going to create a lot of chaos. That's for sure.
Yeah. Right now, he's just signed a law seizing foreign aircraft. Again, I have no word as to the bond payment. Obviously, if Russia had paid it, I would know it. Doesn't look, at least as of yet, that payment, which is due today, hasn't been made. The Fed is meeting right now, start of this 2-day meeting. The hedge funds have cleared out. The Barclays yesterday shut down. It's called an ETN. It's really like paper oil, paper gold, all this stuff. They had to shut it down, which led for everybody to head to the exit. We've got, I don't want to call it a fake pullback. It's a pullback. The number of longs in oil, as an example, hit an all-time record low because they couldn't get long. They had to get out because of what's happening out there. Same thing in the gold, the silver markets. Why do I get the feeling, Jason, that another, and again, I'm going to tell you what I think, that another Chinese billionaire was on the wrong side of a trade, and this is how they got out of it this time?
It's very possible, Joe. Did the nickel market open today?
The nickel market is open today for the very first time. The nickel market opened. There was a huge bailout of this Chinese billionaire. 10 different, listen how bad it was, 10 different banks. Of course, all of them trade nickel. We're in on the bailout. I don't have all the details on the loan package that the guy got, but let's just say he got a way better deal than Peabody Coal got from Goldman Sachs to win that. But the sad part is they rolled back over half the trades and just said, they don't count. Even though no one broke a law, it wasn't like the system, in Vegas, the slot machine, you hit the jackpot, and they say, the computer malfunctioned. You really didn't win. That wasn't the case. All of these trades were legit and above board, and the London Metals Exchange just said, we're not going to count it. I'm sure there's going to be a few lawsuits, but you can't win. They're protected against stuff like that. The amount of impunity that they really have, it's so immense that most people don't really even understand it. And that's why I said Wall Street's nothing more. It's a huge casino that's rigged against all of us.
Yeah, can you imagine if the banks closed as long as the nickel markets had been closed? Can you imagine what would happen then?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen it before, right? Yep. I mean, the nickel markets were closed for over a week. By the way, other news, and we're talking about this, China may be playing its hand to perfection when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. While pledging support for Russia, but not necessarily, at least yet, hasn't given, that we know of, Russia any military support. Today, Saudi Arabia announced for the very first time, and this is huge, Saudi Arabia, which almost exclusively trades every single barrel of oil in dollars, announced today that is in active talks with China to start selling its oil in Chinese yuan. So, again, I think at the end of this reset, this just fits in perfectly with this global reset, Jason. I think this reset's alive and well, and Ukraine is just one of the excuses to get there. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592. I've got $120 gold pieces. These are what we call XF grade, extra fine. They're great quality. Here's the thing. I've got 100. I may be able to squeeze a few more out of this supplier. Gold at one point today was down over $60. And again, I think this is just a little clearing of the decks gift here. Right now, gold's down 40, so well off the lows here, $1,920. But I didn't think we'd ever see this again. Below 2,200, 2,195. And like I said, I've got 100. I may be able to do a few more, maybe. But the sooner you call, the better. As gold rallies, they're just gonna up the price on me. 800-951-0592. Now, we talked about Saudi Arabia now. Think about, this is a huge deal. As far as the rest of the world turning away from the dollar, and the fact we've been talking about this global reset, right? You know, we played Glenn Beck for you last week. Listen, it's not a maybe. This is it. We are going to a digital currency, and there's going to be a shuffling of the deck. I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, right, the dollar is going to not be used anymore, right? The Federal Reserve digital currency, it'll still be used. It'll still be used, and let's say it'll still be used a lot, but a lot less than it used to be used. And that's really the big issue here. Is we know we've been speculating for a long time. China needs a bigger piece of the pie, period. Which again means that we are going to live in a very inflated world here in the United States for a significant amount of time. And Jason and I have told you, listen, this inflation doesn't die in a year, like Janet Yellen is now saying. I mean, this is the same woman, let's face it, a year ago, she just said, oh, don't worry, a couple more months, it'll be over. She was lying then, she's lying now. And when you talk about Saudi Arabia, their whole economy is a dollar-based economy. They sell all of their oil in dollars. Just to give you an idea, because we don't really buy much oil, if any, from Saudi Arabia. China buys more than 25% of all Saudi Arabian oil, period. They're the largest buyer of Saudi oil in the world, and now it looks like they are going to start trading oil in renminbi. And again, I called it Bretton Woods 3, right? Bretton Woods 1 after World War I. That was based on, hey, we're going to use the dollar, but hey, guys, our dollar's backed by gold, okay? It's backed by gold. Just for foreign governments. Obviously, here at home, it wasn't backed by gold for you and I, but for foreign governments, it was. That was Bretton Woods 1. Bretton Woods 2 was after Nixon closed the gold window, and they call it inside money, right? That's what was backing it, right? Bonds and all of that, fiat was backing it. We're getting ready to move into Bretton Woods 3, where China is going to have a much bigger piece of this pie. And Jason, I agree. I think we're going to see, and remember, Zoltan Pozsar from the New York Fed, who now works at Morgan Stanley, this was all of his research, saying that China is going to do a very similar thing, kind of like a Bretton Woods 1, to encourage more countries to trade in renminbi, to say, hey, for you guys, we're backed by gold.
Agreed, Joe. And I guess this whole act that we're seeing between Russia and the West, and China seems to be leaning as far as on the news cycle. They're saying all the right things that we're with Russia. I guess however that plays out, Joe. However, if it's strength on the Russian side, then the renminbi will become stronger. More countries can only use that. What if it goes the other way? I have a feeling China may backtrack, Joe. But you're right that for them, it's good to join the Russian side of things, because if countries started using the renminbi instead of the dollar, that increases their strength for sure.
Yeah, and I really think China's master plan here is to say all the right things. Obviously, they're going to continue to buy the things they need from Russia. They are. And just like India is going to keep buying Russian oil. I mean, they're going to do that stuff. But to come out and really toe the line here, I think China's really doing a dance here, where if somehow they can get Russia to do what they need to do in Ukraine without actually having to get involved and potentially be the nation that gets to say, hey, we helped get a ceasefire here in the Ukraine. Boy, doesn't that up their status on the global stage?
It does, Joe. And why does it feel like, with all the emergency in the news cycle, why does it feel like we're experiencing some sort of a race to digital currencies? It almost feels like there's a race to digital currencies, and whose digital currency will win that race? Doesn't that kind of, China's got their digital currency. Now we're expediting our digital currency as far as our central banks. And all these central banks, they all do business together. They're all chums. But why do I get the feeling that there's going to be winners and losers in digital currencies, Joe? And some of them will fail, like Dogecoin, and some will be strong, like Bitcoin, as central banked digital currencies. That's what it feels like, Joe. It feels like this is all bluster for, hey, you Coca-Cola or Pepsi, Joe. Maybe that's what we're heading for, the digital yuan versus the digital dollar.
Yeah, you're absolutely right when we're looking at what's happening here, right? And we start to really understand the bigger game that's at stake here, because we've said it for so long how this war didn't make any sense. How about today? Right on cue, Argentina halting food exports, no soy, and again, we talked yesterday about the grain situation, which is wheat and soy and corn. Russia's number one. Russia and Ukraine number one. Argentina, believe it or not, they're number 3. They're behind the U.S. Just shut everything off and said, we're not shipping anything out because they're like, hey, we don't know if there's going to be enough supply and we got to feed our people. All of these things factoring into all of this. And Jason makes up a great point. Think about this. When did China release its digital currency? When did it happen? What, less than a year ago?
Less than a year ago, yeah, last year.
Less than a year ago? And now all of a sudden we've got this ridiculous Russia-Ukraine war that's got everybody crazy. We got Joe Biden issuing executive orders telling the Treasury to immediately, urgently, get with Wall Street and get this digital thing figured out. 90 days ago, and it may have only been 60 to 90 days ago, MIT and the Boston Fed said, hey, we got it. We've got it all figured out. We can do 1 billion transactions a second. We've got it. And to Jason's point, the world seems to be rushing to get there. And there's a great article out. Zero Hedge posted it, but it was Winteroak.org that wrote it. It's called The 10 Signs the Ukraine War is Part of the Great Reset, which, let me tell you right now, that's where I sit on this thing. Because this is an idiotic war. I think all of us would agree. Number one, the war between Russia and Ukraine causing unprecedented disruptions to global supply chains and fuel shortages and chronic levels of inflation, right? Check that box. The war's economic fallout will lead to dramatic downsizing of a global workforce. We'll see on that one, right? Because we're already, right? We're in the robotic age. Every company, if they can eliminate a human being, is going to do it. The war will reduce Europe's reliance on Russian energy. We'll see. I know Europe now wants to do it. The problem is in this. It says that it'll reinforce the centrality of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This is what Europe's been on, this UN deal. And Jason, I've got a funny feeling when this is all said and done, getting rid of oil and natural gas, because look at these bad guy Russians, I think this is absolutely going to happen.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, the Rothschilds, they said, I care not the laws of the country as long as I control its money. And these governments, even these central bankers, as powerful as they are, and they are very smart, they have all the real history and real information that we don't get to see. Why do I get the feeling that this mysterious guy that created Bitcoin for the betterment of the world, why do I get the feeling that's the guy that these governments went to, these central bankers went to create their own digital currency? And Joe,
you know my quote unquote conspiracy theory on this, right? There is no mysterious unknown guy,
right?
I think this was done by the central banks themselves.
So all these countries have to go to that creator, Joe, or guys like it. And if they're going to this small handful of guys that know how to create this thing, doesn't that mean that they control all these digital currencies that are being created by all these countries? They're going to control all of it. Whoever's creating the digital currency is controlling the money. You can say it's the digital yuan. You can say it's the digital dollar, Joe. Why do I get the feeling it's all the same thing? It's all controlled by one entity. That's what.
I absolutely agree. And this is part of this. And again, understand this: the bankers and when I say bankers, I'm talking these elite that Jason's talking about. They don't care if it's the U.S. that's dominant, or if England was dominant, or France was dominant. They change it as it changes. And right now they've recognized, hey, guess what? The power's shifting here. We got to shift to China. We've got to shift to Asia. Now, like I said again, doesn't mean the dollar's not going to be used anymore. It will be. Just a lot less. Which just means, listen, the dollar strength that we've all enjoyed comes to an end. That's why I said we're going to suffer through horrible inflation. When we go digital, it will improve. But inflation is going to be much, much higher than the last. Remember, we went 20, 30 years where they told us there was no inflation. We're going to enter into this horrible inflationary cycle. When we get to the digital currency, it'll get better. But, Jason, it's never going to go back to, hey, there's no inflation like we had for the last 20 or 30 years.
That's correct, Joe. That's correct. And in the future of digital currencies, we can only theorize everything that's going to happen with this, and that's what this is all about. This whole 2022 year is really pushing us towards this digital currency. Can you imagine you're walking around with your cell phone in your hand, Joe, and hey, I don't like America. You're in America. You got these people that hate America. I'm gonna have digital yuans, and you can just click your thing and move all your dollars into digital yuans. And then, now I don't like the Chinese. I'll do digital euros, right? You can just, however the wind is blowing, you can change it to that digital currency, just like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Which one do you want to buy today, Joe? Real scary, because then it's going to be whatever the news cycle tells you to buy, right, Joe? Hey, if you hate Russia, get out of the digital ruble. They're evil now. They're bad. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, who's buying the bad guy bus? 20s. Listen, hurry up. 2195 800-951-0592. 800-951-0592. I got lines open here. Gold's down 38 right now, 1921, as it continues to rally back here a little bit. And again, a lot of noise having to do with the market being broken, really. Hedge funds have bailed out of all positions across the board, as we're seeing the markets kind of just seemingly breaking all over the place. We got some news about the junk bond market I'll get to in a minute. But first, wholesale prices, their biggest 1 month jump on record. And I want to point out this was a February number. The largest, think about this, the largest single month jump on record. Final demand for prices for finished goods rose 2.4% in a month. That'd be almost 29% inflation. I mean, it's unheard of. Now, in fairness, they changed how they did all of this stuff, so this number only goes back to 2009. Headline producer price indexes up 0.8 for the month. So again, annualize that. You're right there at that 10% number. By the way, the Dow Jones was expecting 0.9. Exclude food and energy and trade services, which would be nice if you could do it, but you can't. Up 0.2%. Year over year, headline PPI rose 10%, the same as January. That also ties it for the highest month ever again, going back to 2009, and it's not stopping there. Telling you right now, people still don't get it, Jason. They have no idea what we're really in for and how much money these crazy bankers actually produced.
That's exactly right, Joe. And if you're one of those guys, and for the average guy, I don't really say that you really shouldn't look at these prices day to day, because it goes up, it goes down. So of course we got gold down for a couple of days, and I think people that buy it, and then it's like, well, it went down. I bought it last week and it went down. I think lumber, for this inflative cycle we're on, lumber's a good example, because remember, Joe, it just went to all-time record highs, and then it dropped down, and you even had the Fed come like, look, see, it came down. The inflation's going away. But even when it came down, it was way higher than where it started. And then lumber started climbing again. I don't know where the lumber is exactly today, but Joe, it's
out of sight.
Yeah.
It's out of sight.
Record highs and going down doesn't mean that lumber went down. It just means that it came off the record high for a little bit, and then it just started climbing again. That you got to realize that's what gold is going to do continuously right for the rest of this year, Joe.
Same thing. Gold and oil, all of it needed to happen. These profit-taking things are good. Now, it's a little overdone because of what's happening in these exchanges. They're just struggling to clear trades. And, and I said it, and I was saying it before, somebody's on the other side of all these trades. And again, I think a lot of what I'll call retail investors have gotten probably destroyed here this week in the last few days, in order for these big banks to protect they're big giant whales. That's just my opinion, and I'm sure we'll find out the truth 2 years from now. But neither here nor there. We've got to start talking about the junk bond market. Obviously, this is where Russian debt lies. B of A was out with a note that says it is a very ugly picture indeed for both price and flows. In other words, price, existing junk bonds. The whole junk bond market right now is now at 80 cents on the dollar. That's not good, right? Obviously, the entire junk market at just 80 cents on the dollar, and they're saying that a lot of the junk bonds are trading well below 50 cents on the dollar. These are called what they call CLO. That's the securitization of the junk bond market. They say that casualties are starting to take place in Europe, where the first default this year occurred. Bloomberg saying that the junk bond market is continuing to add signs of stress. The market remains essentially frozen. Now, again, this is important. Remember, you got to go back to the financial crisis. Remember what they said? Oh, the markets are frozen, right? We gotta increase the liquidity. And of course, what are we going to do starting tomorrow? We're going to do the exact opposite, right, Jason? We're going to decrease the liquidity, which is going to make the problem even worse.
That's exactly right, Joe. That's exactly right. It's a very well-timed war on Ukraine. We're supposed to be raising rates and stopping the printing of money at the same time that, okay, here comes an emergency, and this is when you're supposed to start printing. And, Joe, there's banks, some of our banks, private Russian companies, that it's kind of interesting. They kind of they're in debt to the hilt. They upped the credit cards to the max, and now it's like, oh well, if this is going to happen, maybe we don't have to pay these American companies back the loans, these American banks, these loans they gave us. There's so much.
It's very simple. Okay, it's really simple to understand, and everybody out there can relate to this. Every country in the world, with very few exceptions, had interest rate loan rates at historic all-time lows. Every business worth it, a grain of salt out there, took on loans because it made sense. Listen, businesses that didn't even need loans took loans because, well, God, you're going to loan it to me for that little, right? If you're going to loan me $10 billion at 2.6%, I think I can take that $10 billion and invest it and get more than 2.6, right? And so they were taking on these loans. So all of these companies have huge loans on their balance sheet, which is really dangerous because now all of a sudden the chance for default contagion is that much bigger, especially if the lines are frozen. Companies that all of a sudden maybe, hey, I'm in a liquidity crisis right now because of what's happening with Russia, Ukraine, right? I can't make my products because, hey, I'm missing a key ingredient. I just need a little time, right? I've got assets. I just don't have cash. Well, now they can't tap the market to get the cash they need. It's going to put them in default. That's what they're talking about. Patriot Radio News Hour, those $20 gold pieces, $2,195, 800-951-0592. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592, $20 gold, $2,195. And I think that's robbery, in my opinion. And again, a bunch of events coming together to give some illusion of hope. I'll say this. So the deal, no deal on the peace talks. I've just gotten an update, just like we thought. No deal. Ukrainian presidential advisor said Russia's territorial claims are unacceptable. Ukraine is ready to continue negotiations on the remaining issues. I mean, what other issues are there really? Right, Jason? Well, we'll negotiate on the other issues, but, the territorial claims are made. Nope, we're not doing that.
Yeah, Joe, it's pretty obvious. There's a guy running the Ukraine territory that was put there in 2014, and Putin and Russia don't want that guy there. They want their guy there. I mean, that's it.
Yep, and said Ukraine said the earliest the deal could be struck 2 weeks. 2 weeks. But it may be May. It's going to be a long time.
If Zelensky says I'm walking away, that's when maybe something can happen. So that's the key words. When Zelensky says I'm going to walk away and let Russia put their guy in place, then it'll be over. Other than that, it's never ending. It's funny how the Russian military is so superior, but they haven't got that guy yet. He hasn't left the country, and they haven't got that guy yet, Joe. It's so phony. They should already have that guy. They should already have that guy either captured or he should have fled the country. So this is going to go on for a long time, Joe. I think this is where we're going to be for a while.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is one of those things where eventually it's going to be kind of one of those stalemates, if you will.
Yep.
And again, with all the sanctions and all of that stuff, again, I think really so far today, the biggest news so far today is out of Saudi Arabia by far. This really supports where I think this thing is really headed. This new global reset is coming. Cash is going to be a thing of the past, and I hate to say that, but that's just where it's heading. China needs a bigger piece of the pie. Period. And this is how they're going to do it. The inflationary cycle is now set for us. One of the great things about being the reserve currency of the world is we could get away with a lot more debt than other nations could. And you had strength in that because we always had buyers because they needed dollars to buy things with. This shift now. And think about the nations that aren't on board. Brazil, India, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, just to name a few. And again, what do they have in common? A lot of natural resources. Outside, yeah. India's got population, right? India's got 1 billion people. But Brazil, Russia, UAE, Saudi Arabia, right? They've got stuff, things that are real.
Joe, check this out, Joe. Joe, since the President Bush Jr. presidency, we've had sanctions on Venezuela. And Venezuela still has not moved in the world direction. They've weathered that storm. It's been bad for Venezuela, obviously, hyperinflation, all that. But they have oil, they have lumber, they have gold. And you don't think Russia's been watching the last 20 years of sanctions on Venezuela and learned something, Joe? Right?
Yeah, and think about this. This really, again, plays into China's hands. Right? Because what has China been saying from day one? Hey, sanctions don't work. I mean, think about it. We've been sanctioning North Korea for I don't even know how long. Sanctioning Iran, sanctioning Venezuela, sanction this. It doesn't work. It hasn't stopped anything. And of course, now it's in a situation where, hey, we're sanctioning a bigger country, and because it's bigger, we may have to unsanction the other countries we've been sanctioning the whole time.
Right. Exactly,
Joe. Again, it makes no sense, and it doesn't matter. This is the shift. This is what you got to prepare for. There's no changing it. There's no change. It's not like we fixed it. We can go back. There's no going back. And you're going to find out. You know it. Don't be dumb. You know. How many rate hikes do you really think they're going to pull off here before this whole thing comes undone? Think about gas. Forget about $4.69. It's not done here. And even with the Russia-Ukraine thing, when it finally gets resolved, listen, crude oil has been underinvested for almost 10 years now. And we haven't even talked on the show, like the ESG thing. This thing is so ridiculous. They're really getting ready to get rid of every small business in the world with this environmental nonsense. Think about if you're a manufacturer of any kind. You produce anything. It's impossible not to produce things without leaving a carbon footprint. It's impossible. What do they want you to do if you do that? Well, you got to pay. You got to buy, I don't know, freaking trees in the rainforest. I don't even know what you buy. But you got to buy these green bonds.
Joe, we covered that. We covered that on
business supposed to pay for that.
We covered that on Faking the Truth yesterday with Glenn Biddle. Man, the ESG scores. I'll give you a comment or two on the other side. That is an ultimate control system over the citizens of the world, man. It's really bad.
Patriot Radio News Hour. Pick up those 20s. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here wrapping up this Tuesday edition. It truly is amazing. I'm watching a headline on CNBC as the stock market's having a little rally. Can't go down every day, but they're sitting there saying, "Oh, Dow rallies, inflation hits 10%, but still better than expected."
What?
What?
What are your expectations?
What? Right, this is how it changes. 10%, it's not that bad. It's okay. I mean, it could be worse. Could have been 11. Could have been 12. Right? And I think it's going to be. I guess my problem is that's exactly what it's going to be. Hey, nobody's going to really, and I didn't even get to all the inflation stuff. Tomorrow I'll go through it, all the businesses raising prices, taking away products. By the way, rents. Man, it doesn't end. New all-time record highs. Here comes gold, down 30 now, 1930, 800-951-0592. Put them away. This is a gift. Take advantage of it. We've had a huge pullback. We've wiped out all the shorts. Jason, I don't think this is going to stay down very long. $20 gold pieces, $2,195 at 800-951-0592.
Yeah, gold is where you need to be putting your savings. Don't sit there and hold on to cash. Don't sit there and have it under the mattress or have it sitting in a bank account. I don't know how many different ways we've said why your money's at risk in a bank or in this place or that place. $21.95 for a $20 gold piece is that's where to be. That's where you got to put your money. Yeah. You got to have gold today.
I'm going to call it Bretton Woods 3. I like that moniker. It is definitely going to we're going to see a shift away from dollars. And again, like I said, it's not like no one's going to use dollars ever again. That's not what we're saying. The problem is the dollar on our debt really was priced to perfection. It's just going to lead to we're probably going to look at least a decade-long period of extremely high inflation as the world shifts to the Chinese renminbi as they, I guess, join the rightful place. This thing started back in the 70s when Nixon visited China all the way to, remember, 2016 when the IMF, even though they shouldn't have been put in, they didn't qualify, the IMF put them in the basket of currencies. This is it takes a while. This is the process that we're in. And this is something, Jason, where I think the Russia-Ukraine thing, again, is going to give a lot of countries the feeling, especially the ones that have been punished by the United States. And I'm not talking about like Russia, Venezuela, China. I'm talking other countries like India and Brazil and Saudi Arabia and others that because of what we've done with the dollars really affected their economy. They're going to look to diversify. They've been diversifying. Just look at all the gold these countries have been buying. That ought to tell you all you need to know, Jason.
Yeah, the biggest of the biggest players have been buying for years and years and years. They were buying it when it was lower. They were foreseeing the things that are happening. They have all the information. They have a lot more inside information than we do. They talk to the big governments. They talk to the big banks. They talk to the big corporates' interests. And they've been buying it for years, and this is a great time to get in, Joe. You got to get in before things really get. Think things are crazy now. Wait till 6 months, right?
Yeah, that's we're at the early stages of crazy.